Hello and welcome to Gen Z on Leadership. I'm Gabriel Gary, the host, and today I have the honor of introducing you to Mr. Brilyn Hollyhand. Hollyhand is the co-chair of the RNC Youth Advisory Council, founder and editor-in-chief of the Truth Gazette, a conservative news service he founded at just the age of 11. Most recently, he is also the author of his debut book, One Generation Away: Why Now is the Time to Restore American Freedom. He has accomplished all this at the age of only 17. Thank you for being with me today, Rylan.
Gabe, thanks for having me. This is awesome. Congrats on all the success that you've had. And this is so cool to get to talk to another young person. I'm so excited.
Thank you. So I just wanted to start by asking what got you interested in politics at such a young age?
That's a great question. So I first got interested in politics at the age of 10. I was in fourth grade, and we had stayed in for recess in January because not because it was too cold, but because we wanted to watch the inauguration of President Trump. And I thought it was so cool, and I was so excited. And I was like, this is kind of interesting. And I at first started watching politics during that 2016 election, those fiery debates between Trump and Hillary.
Right.
And again, just paying attention, just being an innocent bystander. I was like, this is kind of interesting. Sometime after that inauguration, I started seeing all the arrows being thrown at then President Trump, and I was like, wow, like this is kind of crazy. Our country's kind of in a crazy state, but it'll be okay. The adults are going to handle it. And unfortunately, Gabe, the adults did not handle it. And so that summer, July of 2017, I was 11. And I said, look, if the adults are going to do it, I'm going to step up and do it. And so at the age of 11, I founded my own news service to try to get real truth out there. My first article was McCain, Republican or not. So I was calling out Republicans just as much as I was calling out
Mhm.
Democrats. And we really were out there trying to be on the front lines of getting truth to the people and getting Gen Z a voice. And that's what I've done for the past 6 or 7 years. And it's been such a blessing. So I'm so excited to see other young people engaged and involved. And this has totally been the highlight of my day. This is so cool.
Me too, and you've definitely been a great inspiration. Need somebody to take that first step, and I think that you've done a great job of that. Just talking about, I mean, you've already answered the question about the Truth Gazette at age 11. So I guess I'll jump to the next question. What challenges in the beginning of the Truth Gazette and starting the RNC Youth Advisory Council? I know that was later, but what
Yeah.
challenges did you face early on in the beginning, and how did you deal with them?
So lots of challenges. Um, Really, when I started, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I don't necessarily want to grow up and be a journalist, but I wanted to have some type of platform and voice to be able to speak. And Fox News isn't going to have an 11-year-old at the time on, so I had to have something. So I created my own kind of network there. And really, it started as trying to prove myself to everybody, prove that I can play in the big leagues, prove that I can set the big table. I mean, this is talking about a kid, at 11 that was still sitting at the kids' table at family dinner. So going into a political, room and to the Capitol and saying, look, I think I deserve a seat was pretty difficult at the beginning. So first it was proving, and that's kind of the same situation that we got into when I started the RNC's Youth Advisory Council. After the 2022 midterms, I thought the Republicans had a problem. I thought that we were losing too much. I mean, we were told for years that we're never going to get tired of winning, but Gabe, unfortunately, I was tired of losing. And I said, look, it's time for our party to put an emphasis on my generation. It's time for our party to reach out to all of us. And they were not doing that. And you knew that just as well as I do. And then so I went to the national leadership and I said, look, it's time to give Gen Z a seat at the table. But there's a big problem. There was no table for us to sit at. And so that was the first conversation of, okay, let's start a table. And I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you the conversation as I share it in the first chapter of the book. The first thing I said to the previous RNC chairwoman was, look, the DNC founded their youth advisory council in 2005. This is 2023 when we started this. We're almost 20 years behind them. The fact that there isn't even a council, much less some type of way just to get information from our generation up to the top of the ladder, is sad and disappointing, and we're behind, and we need to do something. And they took that, and they could have, went any direction with it, but they decided to actually found a council, and I thought that was going to be the end of the conversation. And 2 weeks later, she called me back and said, "Hey, if we do this council, would you chair it?" And I was like, wow. A little bit busy with school, a little bit busy with everything else, but I guess I'll do it. But I'm only going to do it if I can bring somebody else. And so CJ Pearson was the first person I called. We've grown up together in politics, and he's obviously another young, really big conservative voice. And I said, hey, would you come on and do this with me? And he agreed. So we sat down and picked 10 other people to fill up our 12-person council. And it's been so awesome and so cool. But those same challenges of proving the authenticity and proving that we deserve a seat just as much as, the 80 and 90-year-old, career politicians, came up again when we were doing the book. And I wrote the book and met with my agent and met with my publishing team and all that. And we went to go, kind of pitch it to these huge publishing houses in New York. And the first two that we went to said, "Oh no, we're good. Great book. We love the book, but come back to us after college. We'll publish it then." I was like, well, the point of the book is why now is the time. And really, I'll be honest with you, Gabe, the title should be why yesterday was the time to restore American freedom. We're already kind of behind on that. But I couldn't say, oh, let me wait. I'm 5 years away from graduating from college. I'm still a junior in high school. So it's like, I can't say, well, let's wait 5 more years and then we'll do it. So I mean, I know you've probably run into the same issues too. It's people thinking that we don't deserve a seat, people thinking that we're not capable of it. And I got to go on national TV and show those first two publishers that we are on our way to have a best-selling book. And we have the council and we have this career that's been built because people gave us chances and because people opened the door to Gen Z. So I hope that in some little way we can continue to do that on into the future.
That is super inspiring. And I'm just wondering what gives you the drive to, with the RNC, the Youth Advisory Council and the Truth Gazette and the book, what gives you the drive to, push forward and, you know, talk to these big people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it really, it's a passion and it's absolutely something that I'm so thankful for God for, that I'm not a lazy person because I took last Friday off on Good Friday. We were out of school and I hadn't taken a day off of, kind of working and stuff. And sometime last year. And I was like, I'm gonna go golf. I'm gonna go play with my friends. Like we're gonna go out and have dinner, and it's gonna be great. And by like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was like, I've done nothing today except golf and eat lunch. Like, what am I doing with my life? This is crazy. But it should kind of like made me realize like how busy day to day is. And the only thing I can describe it is it's genuine, it's true. It's not like I'm putting on this false thing of like, oh, like we got to save America. We genuinely have to save America, and you know that just as much as I do. And so I think the passion and the drive, like you said, is just because I see the threat. Like if I sit back and wait till after I graduate from college, there might not, and more than likely will not be a free America for me to grow up and have a career in. So yeah, I can wait and do political commentary in 10 years, but there's not going to be a country to commentate on in 10 years. So I have to get involved now. I have to inspire all of us to get involved now. And this is an interesting point that I'm just going to loop in here as well. A lot of people, I mentioned CJ and I mentioned kind of the council of bringing other Gen Z people on. And obviously, you're becoming this huge voice in our party as well. People are like, oh, like is this like competitive? Like, how dare you like talk to people that are like in the same business as you? No, we need to be supporting each other. We need to be encouraging each other. We need to be like lighting this fire and drive inside each of us because I can't do this by myself. You can't do this by yourself. CJ can't do this by himself. There's a reason it's a 12-person council, not a 2-person council. We all have to have the drive and passion. So we kind of, go off of each other. If it was just me in a room with a bunch of 80, 90-year-old career politicians, I wouldn't be able to do this all day. I'm only able to do this because I get to sit and talk and have fun with peers and make a friendship and all that out of this. So that's kind of the reason behind it. But it all really goes back to God and just kind of this is the time for this.
Right. And I was just wondering, you've been in this since you were 11 at a very young age, and I'm sure that being such a publicized figure, and I know and every good leader faces criticism to some extent. And how do you deal with it from peers and even people that are older than you, like the publishing agencies? How do you deal with that criticism?
Sure. Yeah. So you've probably already grown really thick skin, but if I had any advice to give to you, it would be grow thick skin because it's just kind of part of this business. There's not much you can do about it. And so hate comments are hate comments, DMs are DMs, death threats via email or voicemail or text or whatever. I've even been having people call my school lately, trying to get to me. And it's crazy. It really is crazy. There's no other way to describe it. But the thing for that area is just growing thick skin. The thing for when people tell you no, when people, kind of close that door and say, this isn't, that, we don't need a Gen Z perspective. We don't need a Gen Z voice. You just got to keep going. And I'm not saying keep pursuing that door. I'm saying make your own door, make your own table per se, if it's like a youth council. But so never give up, never back down, regardless of kind of where, people are trying to tell you, oh, you can't do this because the big thing is, like you said, we as Gen Z conservatives have this drive and this passion. That's why we're becoming such a loud voice in the party. So definitely thick skin's a thing. It doesn't really get to me that much anymore. I guess a big thing you said, kind of criticism of leadership. I'll talk about it now. I mean, sometime end of last year, we had 5 members resign from the youth council and went to Fox News with the exclusive claiming that we were a do nothing council. And I got the call. I was in algebra class, and I got the call from Fox News, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, like your leadership's under attack. Would you like to comment for the story?" And I said, "Oh well, okay. Which five resigned?" And the five members that resigned had only come to one meeting, and they'd been on the council for almost a year. So they had missed about five or six different meetings that we had invited them to. They had missed different projects. We had constantly invited them to participate in this workshop, to take on this project, to go speak to this group, and there had been nothing. And so when leadership comes under attack, even from our own party, our own who we think is our friends, at the end of the day, I think that they were trying to get their moment of fame and their spotlight. And I genuinely wish them the best and hope that they can continue the conservative agenda that we're all trying to push in their own area. But when you said kind of leadership criticism, that's just kind of the first story that came to mind of regardless. Like I genuinely, I'm still friends with people. I still talk to them pretty often. And it doesn't affect it that way. You got to kind of keep personal and politics separate. And that's kind of at how you're able to survive this for 7 years so far. It's crazy.
Mhm. I just want to talk about the Truth Gazette and now the Brilyn Hollyhand show. I just wanted to read off a couple names here. You've interviewed most recently U.S. Senator Katie Britt, former Secretary of Housing Development and Urban Planning Ben Carson, and the former Vice President Mike Pence. I guess I just want to ask, in interviewing all these great leaders, what reoccurring qualities and principles did they possess?
Yeah, so I've probably reached out to interview three or 400 people, and I've so far interviewed about 56. And these 56 are the biggest names in politics. You read out some of them. I mean, I've been doing this, I guess, yeah, 6 or 7 years now, and I've just the point of this is you said qualities. It's all of these people have given time to young people. They could have easily said, out of this is a small percent that have accepted to do interviews out of the 400, but the ones that have are the ones that say, oh, Gen Z has a voice and they're valued, and I want to give them 15 minutes to sit down with this kid. When I started, I was 11 years old. I had a lot chubbier face from the baby fat and had these big round glasses. And I had a suit that didn't fit me. And I could have walked into one of the first interviews was in the West Wing of the White House. And I could have walked into the press secretary's office and she'd been like, I'm not giving you time. Like, we're in the middle of crisis after crisis after crisis. What are you doing? Like, you're crazy. And they said, no, like, this kid matters just as much as the ABC reporter that was just in here before him. And that's really, really cool. It's really, really cool to see. I mean, and some of these people are across the aisle. Some of these people aren't politicians. Some of them are, SEC basketball coaches. Some are Army general. One was a Heisman Trophy winning a football player. So, I mean, it's really cool just to see that these people take the time. What I would learn from them is to do the same thing, to take the time to talk to people that obviously don't get, this national attention. Say, I don't always want to go and do a Today Show interview or Fox News interview. I want to do these because, first of all, these are more fun. But second of all, these are what actually reach our peers. Our peers aren't watching the Today Show. Our peers aren't watching necessarily Fox and Friends. And so that's what I've learned from that. But again, just them taking the time is so cool. And I am so thankful for them. And the cool thing is we haven't fully announced the list, but on my website, brylynhollyhand.com, there's a list of the 12 people that were so kind enough to endorse the book. And almost all 12, I believe all 12 of them have come on my show or will have episodes dropped pretty soon. And the fact that they not only took the 15 minutes, but then came back and said, oh, yeah, I'll write a paragraph write up to endorse your book. I'll put my name on the cover of your book because I believe in you and I believe in this passion. And I believe that your generation is the generation that can save us. That's so cool. And I'm so appreciative and thankful for them for that.
Mhm. That genuine connection. Yeah, I've read testimony from a bunch of big names. It's quite impressive. And I guess I'm just
Thank
wondering,
you.
um, at what point did you realize um, that you had to get your message out and write your book one generation away?
Yes. So just to give you kind of a timeline perspective, November 2022, the midterms that we so horribly lost, that everybody was saying, oh, it's going to be a red wave, red wave. The problem when you hear people say red wave, Gabe, be weary if there's no actual work for a red wave to happen. If the only thing that's happening is people going on TV and saying red wave, but they're not actually knocking doors and registering and phone banking, there's not going to be a red wave. So my issue was in November of 2020. That was my issue with the National Party. Between November and January, I did a reflection on what the real issue is. Was it the candidates? Did we have bad candidates? Was it because who was endorsing the candidates? Was it because we didn't have good ground game? What was it? And it all came back to our social media presence was horrible. We had no engagement with my generation at all. And we are the largest voting bloc in 2024. And it was so important, obviously, in the midterms to focus on it, and they didn't. And so we can't fix the past, but we can fix the future and prevent that from happening again. So January of 2023, I wrote this long form op-ed titled, why the party needs to wake up, address the elephant in the room, Gen Z. And it was huge. It was crazy, and that was my Fox News debut the next morning, and that kind of got this national attention to the issue. And I was like, oh wow, it's not just me that realizes this. Like other people are kind of waking up and seeing that Gen Z needs representation in politics across both aisles. But I was specifically talking about the right side. And that started the conversations with the RNC about, and keep in mind, I was attacking the RNC pretty heavily in this article. I mean, it's still online. I still stand by what I said, but they saw this interview. I was attacking even leadership at the top at the time that was there. And I got a phone call and I was like, oh, I share the story in chapter one, but I'll give you a little bit of it. It all started with a text of hey, could you meet with the chairwoman tomorrow at noon? And I was like, what are you talking about? I've never had any reach out from the RNC. Like, what is going on here? And I was like, I'm about to be blacklisted from the party. Like, I'm never going to have a job. I'm done because I called the party out. Like, this is crazy. And I was like, I'll take the call and then I'll, I guess tuck my tail and run home. Like, what's going to happen here? And took the call. And she immediately said, I understand what you're saying. I think we do have a problem. I think this is an area we have lacked in. What can we do? And in the last paragraph of the article, I said, you need to start a youth council and you need to start engagement because, like I told you earlier, we were almost 20 years behind the Democrats. So that started that conversation. Youth council obviously came from that. I decided that I had been talking on TV and talking on Twitter and talking in interviews for 6 years, but I hadn't actually been putting any actions behind that. I was just a talking head and I did not want to be one of those talking heads. And so I decided I kind of wanted to put some action behind that. We started the council, started doing youth engagement tours on college campuses, obviously started bringing those big primary debates with all the drama around them to college campuses. And then we started our Bank Your Vote program to get young voters to register to vote this upcoming November. And all of that was great and wonderful and awesome and exciting. And then we got to the point of, okay, this is cool, but how do we reach more people? How can we get this message out to more people? Because some young people are listening. Some of our parents are listening, and a lot of the grandparents are listening and concerned because they grew up in America that's unrecognizable today. And they look out their window and like, what is going on? Like, we got to do something to save it. And so I said, how can I reach all of those people at once? Not all are on social media, not all are on TikTok. I can't film a video. How can I do that? And a book's the first thing that came to mind. And in the very back of the book, I share the story of kind of how I was sitting in a church service and how I kind of got the idea for writing the book. And it really just kind of hit me. And I was like, no, I can't write a book. Like that's not going to happen. I was, 17 years old at the time. I still am, but it'll be 18 when it comes out. And I was like, I can't do that because I had doubt in myself. I knew what the publishing companies were going to say. I was like, that's not possible. And I kind of kept thinking about it, praying about it. That next day, that was Monday, I texted a friend of mine who was a best-selling author. And I said, hey, can we grab coffee sometime this week? I've got a really crazy idea that I want to pitch you. And I was expecting to sit down and she'd be like, you're crazy. Like great idea. That's awesome. Go tell it to somebody that can actually write it and we'll move on. And she was like, you're a writer. You started out by writing articles. You still write tweets and podcast scripts and speeches and you can do this. And I was like, I don't know. And so I put together a proposal and we kind of, talked about that. And my big thing from the beginning, and you'll hear me talk about this, a little later, was I didn't want this to be a ghostwritten book. I didn't want this to be, something that somebody wrote for me. I read, approved, and went off. I wanted to spend the time on this or I just wasn't going to do it. And so I put together the proposal. She warned me. She was like, send it out to the different publishing houses, but it'll be 6 to 8 weeks before you even get a yes or no or a call back or anything like that. Within 30 minutes, we had 6 different publishing houses interested. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do now. Like what? And so hired an incredible literary agent whose name is Tom, and he is one of my closest friends and mentors now because we've done this whole crazy process together. But that's kind of how it started and went out there and people were interested. And I was like, oh, people might actually buy this book. And now they are. And it's crazy. And so I get to talk about it all the time. Now we're on the easy part. I just get to talk now. The writing was crazy. I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and so I'm a huge college football fan. And obviously, Tuscaloosa, our lovely team here, Alabama, made it to the college football playoffs at the Rose Bowl. And my whole family went to the Rose Bowl, but I missed the Rose Bowl because that was the editing part of the books. I was here for like 14 hours a day staring at this computer editing. And so I watched the game on TV. But that was kind of the process of like, everybody's like, again, yeah, you got the book, but you're crazy. Like, you can't miss a football game for writing some book that nobody's going to read. And now people are buying it and hopefully going to read it. And it's exciting. So I just appreciate y'all giving us this time to talk about it. I'm excited.
And it's inspiring, like you said, that belief that, oh, I can, I'm 17, but it's really, to see somebody do it and to make that first step.
Yeah.
I think you've inspired the next generation of authors and
Well,
just
thank
young
you.
people that want a platform. And like you said too, the ghostwriting, I definitely think that, and I'm super excited to read it because it's a lot more genuine and effective because you get to be in charge of your messaging, and it's more authentic when the person who wrote it actually wrote it. So um, and I guess just when you get denied, from the first publishing company, you could have been discouraged. You could have said, "All right, I'm going to pack it in and be done." But what gave you the drive to continue forward? I mean, with publishing the book.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this book, and I'm a big reader too, so I read a lot, and I know, and you know as well that books are geared towards certain people. Like, say this book is meant for people that are interested in history, or this book's for people that are in mystery or thrillers, or whatever. And it's, say, a majority Gen Z geared book, or this is for your older group or whatever. And there can be a little crisscross, but you write it thinking about a specific age group or people group or anything like that. But this book's different. This book is for my peers. My peers can read it to get inspired and get this drive and this passion to realize that yesterday was the time to save America and we're behind. We need to play a catch up game right now. This book can be for parents out there who really want to start having the conversation of, reversing the indoctrination that our generation's been getting for so long, ever since we've been in public education together. And then it's also for grandparents who want to talk to their grandchildren and children about conservatism, who want to save the country that they don't recognize now, but don't know how to start that conversation. It's just really difficult. That's why I knew that this book could be a success. That's why I really wanted to get this book out there in some way, shape, or form, because I knew it fit everybody. It wasn't just one group I was talking to. It's all Americans on either side of the aisle. We can all agree that we need to save America. Obviously, I'm a huge conservative. I'm leading the Republicans Youth Council. I mean, I'm pretty vocal about which side of the aisle I stand on. And this book is geared towards that party, but this is really for anybody that looks around and doesn't like the state of America, whether you like the top of the party ticket nominee or not. You should pick up this book and you should read it, and you can either share the information with your children or grandchildren, read it and store it for yourself, and then go share the message with other peers in our generation, whatever. That's why, because I knew that it could reach such a large group of people.
Mhm. And I appreciate that, because your engagement, writing your book, starting the Truth Gazette, Brilyn Hollyhand show, there's always going to be the other side. There's always going to be two sides. And I think that you're not just inspiring the right, you're inspiring a whole new generation of people that are engaged in politics and public service. Um, my last question is just what message and advice do you have that you would really like to spread to the next generation of American leaders?
I love this. This is a great question. Thank you so much. So really, I have spent the last 7 years traveling the country, whether it's speaking at college campuses or it's your local Kiwanis club. Um, Everybody, young or old, has been telling me, and this is Republican or Democrat as well, has been saying that they don't see hope in America, that they don't think there's going to be a free America for our generation to grow up in. And I'm here to dispel that rumor. I've constantly been told the American dream is dead, and Gabe, it's not. You and I are living proof of that. We could only do this in America, and the American dream is alive and well. And so that's the message I'm trying to get out to my generation. There's revival happening in America. It's time to stand up. It's time to get off the sidelines. Our generation can be the generation that saves America. The book is called One Generation Away. It's available at browlandbook.com for signed copies of pre-order, or anywhere that you can pre-order a book. It's available Barnes and Noble, anywhere. Just Books a Million, pick up your copy, Amazon. But really, the message in the title is from Reagan's famous line, "Freedom's one generation away from extinction." And unfortunately, Gabe, I think our generation is that line that's on the brink of whether America's freedom goes extinct or not. And that's why I think it's important. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm actually trying to inspire hope in people, that there is actual hope, that we don't have to have this doomsday picture painted of America. We can say that. We can grow up in a free America like our grandparents and grandparents grew up in. We got to do some work. We can't sit and tweet. We can't post TikToks. We can't just sit here and watch it fall into the ground. You can, but it's just going to fall on the ground. I'll tell you what's going to happen. So that's the message I want to get out to our peers. I hope you buy the book. I hope you pre-order it. Again, brylynbook.com for signed copies. But even if you don't, just realize that this is the time. This is the time to get inspired. And anybody can do this. If I could do this at 11, you can do this at whatever age. And I hope that this can inspire some more people. And I'm just so excited for you and your career and all the accomplishments you've had so far. And really, really appreciate you giving me this opportunity and time. And I'm a fan of yours now. This is such a cool show. And so hopefully we'll be back sometime. This is awesome.
Thank you very much. Brilyn Hollyhand, 17-year-old conservative commentator, pre-order his book, One Generation Away, on brylynbook.com. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Gen Z on Leadership with 17-year-old conservative commentator Brilyn Hollyhand. If you want to check out his book and learn more about his book, you can go to brylynbook.com. That is BRILYNBOOK.com. You can also follow him on all of his socials, just at Brilyn Hollyhand. If you want to learn more about the podcast, please check out genzonleadership.com. You can also follow Gen Z on Leadership on Instagram and our YouTube channel, which is Gen Z on Leadership. If you want to follow my socials, you can follow me at Gabriel Gary on all social media platforms. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for all new episodes as we try to post at least one a month.